You're showing up, being consistent, giving everything you have, but still your partner feels emotionally unavailable. But they don't leave. And that's the part no coach or therapist prepares you for. They're not engaged, but they stay. Today I want to walk you through why avoidantly attached individuals remain in relationships long after emotional connection has faded, and what that really means for you. First, I want to talk about why do avoidants struggle with intimacy? Avoidants are not wired to feel safe in emotional closeness. For many, vulnerability triggers discomfort, not connection. Why is this? Their earliest relationships taught them that being emotionally open comes at a cost. It comes with rejection, abandonment, or suffocation, so their system learns to regulate by distancing themselves. The more emotional intensity rises, the more their nervous system starts to shut down. That doesn't mean that they don't care. It means they don't know how to stay close and feel safe at the same time. I have a client that I'm working with right now that's going through this exact same thing. I have to continuously text her that, stick with this. Emotional closeness equals a threat. Distance equals control, and avoidance equals protection. So what exactly keeps them in a relationship? Avoidants often stay in relationships where they feel unchallenged emotionally. If you're patient, if you don't confront them, if you minimize your own needs to avoid conflict, they may stay longer than anyone expects. Here's what a couple Redditors said. One person said, "He stayed for years but never let me in emotionally. I thought we were building something. He was just surviving the connection." Another person on Reddit said, "It wasn't until I stopped chasing emotional closeness that I realized he was only there because I made it easy not to feel." The third Redditor said, which is probably the most saddest one out of all of them, "Avoidants don't leave. They slowly disappear while still sitting next to you." They're not staying because they feel deeply connected. They're staying because the environment feels manageable. In their world, emotional management feels safer than emotional engagement. And I know the comments are going to come in, avoid the avoidant, or even never speak to these people again. And I get it. I understand your frustration. But here is the hard truth. You don't have to stay in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant. And I get it. Maybe it's something else going on. Maybe it's possibly Stockholm Syndrome or whatever it is. But you have more power than you realize. You can simply walk away from that relationship. As soon as you realize that this person has an avoidant attachment style, you can walk away from that relationship. I'm just giving you the tools if you decide to stick it out, and hopefully that avoidant attached person heals themselves. This dynamic leads to one of the most painful misunderstandings in avoidant relationships. The partner believes that if they're still here, they must care. But an avoidant stand doesn't always reflect emotional investment. They may be physically present while still emotionally withdrawn. That disconnect confuses partners, especially those with an anxious or secure attachment style, because we assume emotional closeness and commitment goes hand in hand. But with avoidance, that's not always true. You have to understand that presence is not the same as partnership. And I know that a lot of people stick around. They feel that many avoidants have potential because they can be loving, they can do acts of service, but it just usually doesn't pan out that way. So how do you justify staying with an avoidant? From the avoidance perspective, the absence of conflict equals a healthy relationship. They're conflict avoidant, really. Meaning that if things are calm and predictable and they're not being asked to open up, they may think, hey, this is working out. I've seen a lot of avoidants be confused after the breakup because they felt like the relationship is running as smoothly as possible. But what was really happening was the other person was starting to check out and they didn't see a future with the avoidant. They don't realize that their version of peace might feel like emotional starvation to their partner. But here's what I want you to understand. They're not intentionally trying to hurt you. They're trying to survive a dynamic they were never taught to navigate. In their environment, calm equals safety. Emotional requests equals threats. And withdrawal equals self-protection. I had a client reach out to me about a year ago. And I try to keep everything anonymous, so I keep things very loose. And he reached out to me because he was trying to get back with his ex. His ex, he knew, was an anxious attacher. And after we started talking with each other, I realized that he was more on that avoidant side. He was so confused because he said we were at the most peaceful we had ever been in our relationship. She wasn't arguing anymore. He felt like, all right, this is great. Like I'm actually starting to fall in love with her again. But she ended up breaking up with him and actually leaving him for another guy. He reached out to me very dysregulated, just wondering what happened. We had to go through a whole timeline of everything that happened in the relationship. But he realized in the end that he was the cause of a lot of this. If you're the one emotionally invested, this dynamic slowly erodes your sense of self-worth. And she said that a lot of times. She felt like he didn't care. And I told him, you started minimizing her needs. And what she did was she stopped asking for more. She stopped waiting for you to engage instead of expressing how alone she felt. So it's not surprising that she ended up meeting someone else and going on with someone else, because we all have that turning point. And if you're someone here and you're in a relationship with an avoidant, here's what eventually is going to happen. Eventually something's going to shift within you, and you'll begin to see the emotional weight that you've been carrying, and you recognize that their presence doesn't equal partnership, and you stop blaming yourself for what they can't give. And for many people, that moment is extremely painful, but it's also the beginning of clarity, which is one of the frameworks that I have for my course. Clarity on these three things. Awareness is greater than resentment. You can't heal someone's avoidance, and you can honor your needs without feeling guilty. So in the end, once you realize that avoidants don't stay in relationships because they're fulfilled, they stay because they're not triggered. I can't vouch for those type of relationships, because you deserve more than someone who's simply managing to stay. You deserve a relationship where presence includes emotional availability. And if it's not what you're receiving, it's okay to ask yourself, am I being loved, or am I just being tolerated? Because I feel that distinction is the key to your healing and letting this thing go if need be. So if you found this video of any value, please like, comment, and share. You can reach out to me in my other social media accounts. Instagram is I am Coach Court. TikTok is I.am.CoachCourt. Facebook is Coach Court. If you want my help personally, you can reach out to me on my website at www.fruitfulseeds with a Z at the end.com. And always remember, when you go be loved, you'll never have to find it. God bless.